Konnichiwa! In today's show, I'm going to be showing you how you can use your PlayStation 4 controller, PlayStation 3 controller, Switch Pro controller, or an arcade joystick to play games on your Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. Using this, the Brook Game Controller and Super Converter. We'll be doing a full breakdown of the device, plus probably the world's most extensive testing of this, the Brook Game Converter, with over 100 Mega Drive games tested over 2 weeks. I'll be looking at what genres of games play better with one of these modern controllers, which ones are just more comfortable with it, and if there are any issues. Now, if you're new to the channel and you love your retro gaming, you may want to consider subscribing by clicking on a little button below. And whilst you're down there, you might as well check out YouTube's Hitchhiking Simulator by clicking on the thumbs up button as well. My name's Mike, and this is the Retro Gamer Boy Show. Welcome back, and before we get into the show, just a disclaimer that this device was actually sent to me by Brook. However, this is not a paid promotion video, and all the opinions that you're going to see in this video are my own. Now, I love using original hardware and peripherals, but we have to face the facts that some of these peripherals on these old consoles weren't necessarily the best, and the Sega Mega Drive probably suffered the most. Its 3-button joypad wasn't really ergonomically designed, and the number of inputs that you had on it were pretty limited when you compared it to the competition, say the Super Nintendo joypad. And whilst I still love my original peripherals, I do sometimes wish that I had a more modern, ergonomically designed joypad in my hands. Now, before we get into this, the Brook Converter, it's worth noting that there are a number of different options out there that will allow you to play with modern joypads. There's even classic modern versions of joypads out there that you can use on your consoles. But one thing that is different about this device is that you can not only use it on your Sega Mega Drive and Genesis, but you can also use it on your PC Engine. So let's open this up and see what it can do. So we're going to unbox now the Brook Game Controller Super Converter. So it's quite nicely presented actually. So we've got the company logo there. So take this out. Here is the converter. So we've got the Mega Drive port there. Ooh, got some stickers. They provide the USB cables. That's awesome. So the Brook Converter not only supports PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 joypads, but it also supports arcade sticks. And if you update this, you can actually get your Switch Pro joypad to work with this as well. Now, our first test is to see how plug and play this device actually is. I've not read any of the instructions. We're just going to stick it in and see if it works. That was super smooth actually. Usually with my joypads on the Mega Drive, I have to kind of slightly wobble them in. It just went straight in. So they've got the machining or the molding on that input perfect. Right, so we've got a red light and a green light. I'm going to try the PlayStation 4 joypad first. Blue light straight away, so it's on. We got Street Fighter. Let's see what we can do. It's working. This is brilliant. Let's see if we can do it wireless. So I guess I just pull it out. Okay, it's gone off. Let's switch it back on. That is freaking awesome. Right. Okay. We got a wireless PlayStation 4 joypad connected to the Sega Mega Drive, playing Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. Let's see how it plays. Right off the bat, D-pad feels lovely. It's a PlayStation 4 D-pad, so it feels great. And we got the thumbstick there working perfectly. Okay, obviously it doesn't do that. I'm guessing A, B, and C are going to be square, triangle, circle. This is great. There's no lag input at all here. And using the thumbstick to control your character is fantastic. Brilliant. The no lag input at all. Using the thumbstick is amazing. And to be honest, I've completely forgotten about the fact that the Brook Converter, is doing all the work. The pad just feels perfect. I mean, this is amazing. Now what would be great is if I can get 6 buttons on this joypad. There are 6 buttons on there, so maybe there's a way of doing it. I think it's time to go and check the instructions. So all we have to do is press the PlayStation button and square to go to a 6-button configuration, and PlayStation button and triangle to go to a 3-button configuration. And once it's connected and changed mode, we should see this light flash. Let's try it out. Yep, I have got 6 buttons here. This is great. And the best thing about this is the button configuration on the PlayStation is so much better than the 6-button configuration that you got on the Mega Drive. It's more akin to playing Street Fighter on the Super Nintendo controller, except you've got an awesome thumbstick controller as well. Brilliant. So far, super impressed with playing with a PlayStation 4 controller with my Mega Drive games, and the fact that this little device here is doing all the hard work for me. So as soon as you turn on your console, as long as you've got the USB cable attached, the controller will automatically switch on. Once you take the controller off of the cable and press the PlayStation button, it reconnects wirelessly, which is freaking awesome. Now you can also use a PlayStation 3 controller, and you can use a Switch Pro controller, and you can use an arcade stick. But does it cope with you switching between those devices as you're playing a game? So here we have the PlayStation 4 controller connected. So if I was to unconnect this and connect this in a PlayStation 3 controller, is it going to be seamless, or am I going to have to switch the game off and on again? So we just plug in the PlayStation 3 controller. I've got lights flashing. It looks like my PlayStation 4 controller is still connected to the device, and so it's not picked up the PlayStation 3 controller. So it's going to require a full reset to switch between your 2 different types of controllers, especially on the PlayStation. Now it may be different if you're wired, so if I go for a wired connection this time, so now we're wired again. I had to reset the console again so it lost the wireless connection. So we're wired. So I'm going to pull out the joypad. That's gone off. Just plug in the PlayStation 3 joypad now. That's connected. And does it work? Yep. So as long as you haven't gone wireless, you can actually switch between the 2 PlayStation controllers. Now, one of the really appealing features of the Brook Converter is that you can actually upgrade the device as well. And so after my initial testing, I hooked it up to my PC, downloaded the latest build for it, and I added Nintendo Switch Pro controller support to the device itself. This makes this converter future-proof, and you can see on their site that they support a ton of different consoles with different controller devices. Now, I wasn't exaggerating when I said I played over 100 Mega Drive games over the course of 2 weeks to test out the Brook Converter. Now, to start off with, there are a stack of games and genres that absolutely are game changers when you use a PlayStation 4 controller. And one of the first games and first genres that I put into the Sega Mega Drive to test was Street Fighter and the fighting genre. And I gotta say, especially with Street Fighter, it was an absolute game changer with how I interacted with the game. Don't get me wrong, I like playing this game with my SG Pro 2 6-button joypad, but it was nothing compared to playing it with a PlayStation 4 joypad. Now, not all fighting games are equal, and I would say that Street Fighter benefited the most from it. If you play Fatal Fury, Virtua Fighter 2, those games are more comfortable with a PlayStation 4 joypad rather than changing the actual gaming experience themselves. And other fighting games like the Mortal Kombat series have some minor improvements when you play with a PlayStation 4 joypad. This next genre made use of the PlayStation 4's thumbstick better than any other genre, and is probably the biggest game changer of all the genres. And that is any game that uses a mouse pointer. Games like Dune, Starfleet, Cannon Fodder, absolutely amazing using the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3's thumbstick. Navigating around the world is absolutely blissful, and it is a completely different experience than if you're using the standard Sega D-pad. These games are the best games to play with your PlayStation 4 controller. or PlayStation 3 controller, or Switch Pro controller. Simulators are another great genre that really benefit from using the thumbstick on the PlayStation Joypad. And the Desert Strike series was fantastic to play with. It's almost like night and day playing Desert Strike with a thumbstick. The control, the finesse of movement is unbelievable. And that takes us nicely onto twin stick shooters or single stick shooters. Now, single stick shooters like this Smash TV game over here play amazingly well again. Just like Desert Strike, the amount of fluid control you have over your character is stunning. When you play games like this, Xenocrisis, the game is transformed. It is a dedicated two-stick shooter. Except on the Sega Mega Drive, you have to use a 6-button joypad to use the twin stick functionality, and you're using the face buttons. And it can be a real pain because the face buttons aren't necessarily sympathetically laid out to how you would shoot in the game. But using a PlayStation controller changes everything. And there's one more genre where using a modern thumbstick controller is an absolute game changer, and that's shmups. Again, the thumbstick is the real game changer for these games. Fluid, easy, comfortable control while you blast the absolute living out of everything on the screen. Now the next category is comfort, and there are a few genres that fall into this. Playing beat 'em ups on the Sega Mega Drive is absolutely amazing. Golden Axe series are just some of the best games that you can get for any 16-bit console. And whilst the modern joypads don't really add much value, they are way more comfortable. Platform games like Sonic and Gunstar Heroes, they play pretty much the same as you would do on a Sega Mega Drive joypad or Genesis joypad. It's just a little bit more comfortable with that ergonomically designed modern controller. And sports games. Although sports games can almost fall into the game changer category. And I'd argue the NFL series and FIFA series benefit the most from a thumbstick. The amount of control you can get with a thumbstick over a D-pad is astounding with these games. Now there is a genre of game where the Brook converter struggled and in some cases just didn't work at all. And that is on the smallest genre of game that you can find on the Sega Mega Drive, the first-person shooter genre. Now there are only 3 first-person shooter games released for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive, and of the 3 games released for the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis, Zero Tolerance is probably the best. And this is where we had the first failing for the Brook converter. So here we have Zero Tolerance in the Mega Drive. I switch on the console as usual, we get power to the Brook converter, but the joypad doesn't automatically switch on. In fact, it doesn't switch on at all, and if you press the PlayStation button, you get a red light and no input into the game whatsoever. I've tried this with a PlayStation 3 joypad and get exactly the same results. For some reason, Zero Tolerance just doesn't want to work with the Brook converter. It doesn't get better for the poor old first-person genre on the Sega Mega Drive because Bloodshot has issues as well. Now in Bloodshot, the controller connects perfectly. Now what you're about to see happens in wired and wireless mode with the Brook controller. Here's the problem. You can see as I press the left here, 1, 2, just under 2 seconds before the input is read. It's a little less when you're pushing back and forwards. You can see I've pushed up and then it goes forward, I push back and then it eventually goes backwards. I don't understand why the Brook controller is having so much trouble with first-person shooters. Now it's not all doom and gloom because Corporation works perfectly, and actually playing Corporation with a thumbstick makes the game almost 100 times better. The silver lining here though is that the device is upgradable, and so hopefully in the future this is something that Brook can address. So overall, I'm really impressed with the Brook controller. I didn't think playing these old classic Mega Drive and Genesis games with a modern controller would be that much of a game changer for me. Playing mouse pointer games is unbelievable. Xeno Crisis with a PS4 controller is fantastic. Now aesthetically, I originally thought that actually it would be nice if I had something modern and sleek that just plugged into the front of the Sega Mega Drive. But I actually really like the aesthetics of the device. It kind of looks like a Mega Drive inspired peripheral that you would have got back in the day. The connector is really well molded and fits in perfectly into the port. No wiggling and shaking to get it in and out. Now you can pick up one of these Brook converters for £35, and I'll put a link in the description for where you can purchase them. Now is it worth you buying one of these Brook converters? It depends on your game collection. If you've got mouse pointer games, shmups, fighters, then absolutely. This is a game changer for those games. If you've got Xeno Crisis or any single stick shooter, then again, this makes the world of difference to play with. And it's compatible with your Mega CD1 and possibly Mega CD2, but I don't have one of those. Now, if you just play platform games and beat 'em ups, the comfort of an ergonomically designed modern controller is really nice to have, but is it worth shelling out the money for? Probably not. Thank you for sticking around and watching this week's Retro Gamer Boy show, and thank you to Brook for sending me the Mega Drive converter. It's going to get a huge amount of use in my games room. Remember, if you're new to the channel and you like what you've seen, you can subscribe for more by clicking on my little pixel head below, and clicking on the bell will make sure that you never miss a retro gaming episode, 2 of which you can find over here.